Good morning, everybody. Welcome back. My name is Val. Today is today is we're tackling a task that is one of those necessary but unnecessary evils. It's probably one of my least favorite tasks in the garden, which is to thin the carrots. And I thought we would try two different ways to do it. Well, I guess there's three different ways you can do it. Just take a look and follow along and see how it goes over the course of the season. So the way that I normally sow my carrots is I dig like a very thin trench and then I sprinkle the seeds in. Clearly I I was a little heavy-handed on the seeding this spring, but that's all good. And then typically you'd come in and then you'd thin to about until each carrot is about 1 to 2 inches apart, depending on the size of the carrots that you're growing. And then some people then come back again once the leaves are about 4 or 5 inches tall and thin a second time. I've never done the second one. I just do the first one and then let them do their thing. But typically I grow a smaller type of carrot, and maybe that's why. So what we're going to do. So obviously the first way, and what I guess most people do, is they just go through. Make sure that you can see what I'm doing here. I'm actually not going to do it because I don't prefer this method. It's essentially coming in with little scissors or anything sharp and just snipping right at the base of the ones that you don't want to keep. I don't like, I mean, it's perfectly fine to do that, but I feel like if you've gone through all the effort of sowing the seeds and they've actually grown, I don't want to lose those germinated carrots, right? So you can do that just knowing that by snipping off like every second top of every seedling, you're obviously not going to grow that carrot. It'll just die off. Part of the reason that we need to thin the carrots is so that they have enough room to grow to their full size. If you keep them too crowded like mine are here, they just won't grow to their fullest potential. You'll have lots of leaves, lots of green, but really skinny carrots, which, I mean, the purpose of growing carrots is for the carrots. It's not, well, you can't eat the leaves. So if you prefer to just go in and snip the tops off of every one just to thin them out that way, you could technically eat the leaves. You can throw them in a salad, put them in a stew, put them in I've made carrot top pesto before, which you make it the same way like you would any other pesto. And it was okay. It's probably not my favorite. I prefer like classic pesto or garlic skate pesto, but it's perfectly fine. These are edible. So the second way is, and the one that I'm going to try, the first one is, and strongly suggest doing that. We had a really big rain last night, so it's very moist. The soil is very moist. Is pulling them up gently so that you don't damage the roots, and then making a hole and transplanting it in. I've seen people grow their carrots in like a flat and then just do that and then plant them at proper spacing inside their raised bed or in their container or in the ground. And it's the same concept. And it's essentially repurposing all these seedlings so that you don't lose them because they've germinated. They're just too close together. So what I'm going to do, let's do one. Let's see where you guys are looking. All right, I'm going to do one here. So let's say, let me start at the beginning here. All right, I'm going to grab this one and just gently, and I try to grab it from the root itself. All right, so here's one. This is our little carrot seedling. And then all I'm going to do, and you can use, like, I use a pencil, but you can use like a chopstick or anything that's got a decent enough size. Obviously, it's got to be thicker than your seedling to make sure. And then just put a hole in and just make it big enough so that you can easily put it in there. I don't know if you saw that. Yeah, we're good. And then just plop it in. Try to keep it as straight as possible. Plop it in, and then just firm the soil around it. And there you go. And that is a carrot that normally wouldn't have, at least now it's going to have the space that it needs to grow to full size, and it won't impact the other ones over here. So I'm going to do a whole row like that. But before I do that, actually, I'm going to have to do, we've got 4 rows. I'll probably do 1 row like this, and I'm going to do another row following the other method that I wanted to show you. It's kind of the same thing, but we're doing it in a different way. Actually, I'll just do it up here. So the second way to do it is creating, and I probably should have brought a tool to do this, but I'll just do it with my hand. Creating like a little trench. And it doesn't have to be in this bed. If you wanted to, pull up all your little every second seedling and bring them to another bed, you totally could. But it's essentially the same thing. Let me just do this quickly. Making like a little trench, probably about, well, you saw how long that seedling was, so they're not super long, but long enough so that when I pull one up, let me pull up another one to show you. I'll pull up, let's see. Pull up. Doesn't really matter. I'll pull up anybody. Geez, I really sewed these thickly. Oh, that's too funny. All right, so let's say I'll pull one up gently, not to destroy the roots. Okay, here's my little carrot seedling, and you just lay it down along the side of the wall, and you do that with all of them, and then you'd fill in the hole again. It just makes it a little less tedious than if you're creating a hole and trying to get the carrot right inside of the hole. And I've never done it this way before. I've always done it with like create a hole, put the seedling in the hole. But I thought it would be cool to try. Let me try another one. Let me see. Let me grab some over here. Here's one. Little carrot. Okay. And you could also dig these up. Is there another one? Our next one up. It's going to go. And you just keep them about 1 to 2 inches apart. And at least this way, you know exactly that spacing is right. You'll just leave them in there. And then once it's done, you just fill the hole in with all this soil that you've moved up to the side. And then you'll have another row of seedlings, which is pretty cool. And now that I'm looking at this, I feel like this might actually be easier to do than creating the holes with a pencil. I know this works. This is what I've done for years. But I'm kind of liking this method here because it kind of makes sure that they're all spaced out properly. You can see that the carrot roots are straight. You know what? I think I'm going to do them all like this year, and we'll see how it goes. That'll be a fun experiment. All right, so let me do that. I'll thin everybody up, and then I'll give a quick look at what everything looks like at the end. All right, I am done. So let's take a look. All right, so what I did, I kind of did a mix between creating the holes and creating little trenches. This was the original row. It's much thinner now. Let me see if I can get a closer look at that. So, and there's somewhere, I wasn't sure where the carrots started, and there might be still 2 in there, but you know what, we'll just go with it. And worst case, if they still seem a little crowded in a week or 2, I'll come and thin out some more. But so what I did was I left the original row, I thinned those out. I created a second row in between and transplanted all the ones that I had thinned out. And then the only thing that I would say is that when you're pulling one out, make sure that you go back in and, press the soil up against the remaining roots that are there. Just to make sure that your roots are still, I don't know what the word is, that they're still, the soil is packed in really well against the existing roots. And then, so we have a row of originally planted, we have a transplanted row, which is this little row right here. And we have our originally planted row. So I basically alternated. And here's the one closest to me. This is the originally planted row. And then my little transplanted row in the middle here. And again, here too, just make sure that all your soil is really packed in tight around both of them, around the ones that you pulled out from, to make sure that there's soil that goes, that fills in the holes. And then around the new ones to make sure that they're packed in really tightly as well there. So this is going to be an interesting experiment. I've never really done it by doing like a little trench and then laying your seedlings in and then covering it up. I did that for about half, and then the other half I ended up just for speed purposes, I'm not going to lie, I did I just, you know what, I'll do an example here. So once I had a seedling, I created a big hole, threw it in, and then just packed the soil around the new transplanted seedling, just for speed, just to make it a little bit less tedious. But we'll see what happens. I'm going to water everything in. I know the soil is already moist, but just to make sure that everything settles in properly, the soil settles in around the roots. But that's pretty much it. And it's not that bad. It's not the most pleasant job in the world, but you're going to get better carrots in the long run, just because you're giving them place to grow to their full size, to their full potential. All right, that's it for today. Happy gardening, everybody. Thanks for watching.